just make sure.
This Dana and Srinath.
Perfect. Okay. Great. Okay. We're on record, or no, it doesn't matter actually.
Yeah.
Record. Okay. Okay. Welcome back, everyone. So, again, I'm going to start by asking if anybody has any experiences or doubts, questions, or anything like that to share, especially while having tried to do surrender or self-inquiry in the last few days. You know, anything that's come up that's new. It's okay if not, but I'm just opening in case. Any experience you want to share?
Akilesh, yesterday I was trying to practice self-inquiry, and what I found was, because it's not something that I do naturally, whatever activity I was doing, I felt like I was not giving that complete attention, and then I felt like, you know, and then you worried, right? Will I do that correctly?
Exactly.
So that was the observation, but
yes.
Of course, I have to observe that observation.
Of course.
Too, but that was my observation.
Perfect. Yeah, exactly. And that's very natural. Yeah, exactly. So this idea, this sense that I'm not going to do the activity correctly, is a very natural fear that arises, to which exactly you must inquire again. You know, who's having this fear? Who's having this fear? Because, you know, it's like that fear arises from identification with the doer, basically. You know, it's like, you know, this identification thing is a very mysterious thing, because what exactly is it? But that's the whole issue, right? That you think you are this doer thing, whatever it is. That sense, it's so, you know, deeply stamped in that it feels like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yesterday was a different experience in the sense. All along we try to do, but yesterday I've been doing it, but just to one part of it, half an hour or something, I didn't do it. Oh my goodness! Usually half an hour or 1 hour we'll be doing, but yesterday I was doing it continuously, and then I suddenly remember, oh my goodness, this activity I didn't really realize who I am inside or something like that. So it's other way now.
so it's become so continuous.
Yeah,
it feels like that actually you're noticing you don't do it for half an hour.
Yeah, then, you know, I feel it's so strange, you know.
And it's interesting. Can I ask you what activity it was?
It was driving, actually.
Driving. So interesting, right? So now you can see, right? Maybe during driving, perhaps, maybe you have some fear that if I do this, I'm going to crash or something like that. Maybe is there some fear like that?
It's not like that. I think I had seen something.
You just got distracted.
Before, the previous place where we visited. Yeah.
Got it. Because if you see over time, right? Oh yeah, in the same situations, same activities, same people, or some theme basically behind when the practice doesn't get done. You know, that's like a bit of a map of some of your attachments anyway. Maybe not all of them, but some of them.
For me, it was more when I was watching TV.
When you're watching, yes. Okay, yeah. Entertainment is a big one.
Completely absorbed in that, lost.
Yeah. Exactly. Because people also fear, I'm watching TV, I'm enjoying TV, and that I won't enjoy it if I'm doing the practice. You know, so that's why, of course, pleasure is very hard to give up, basically. The reality is the body and the mind can enjoy it, but you're enjoying something deeper than that, which is the bliss of the self. You know, you have to penetrate to that. But yeah, very natural. You were going to say something?
No, so yesterday I was trying to solve a puzzle, a problem.
Okay.
And I tried to do it in self-inquiry,
Mm-hmm.
and I somehow felt if I completely was absorbed in self-inquiry, I was not able to go engage my mind sufficiently in solving the problem.
Mm-hmm.
So this was a programming problem.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to come back, you know, out of inquiry to do that, but I did that by keeping a little bit of my attention still in the inquiry process.
Mm-hmm.
You know, sort of, hey, who's solving it? But I felt like I had to not be completely absorbed in it in order to come and descend to do this. I couldn't do both. So I don't know what would be. I know one advice would be to not care about whether the puzzle gets solved or problem gets solved or not, and to remain in inquiry.
That's right. Precisely.
But I couldn't bring myself to do that.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because, you know, so yeah, exactly. The advice is, right, who's afraid of not being able to solve the problem, right? I am, right? Who am I? yeah, that this is important to me, that this problem needs to be solved, and also that I'm the one who needs to solve it, and that I'm the doer, my effort is required. All these things are like, this doer thing, I sometimes think of it as, many metaphors, right? But it's sort of like, among other things, it's like, imagine somebody who thinks that they has a psychological disorder where they think their legs are paralyzed. They really believe it. They're not lying. They really believe it, okay? So they're in a wheelchair and they really don't believe their legs will work, right? And you try to tell them, actually, physiologically, there's nothing wrong with you. Your legs do work, right? And, if you prop them up on their feet, what'll happen is they'll immediately collapse because they don't believe that their feet will work, So it's a similar belief, right? It's actually there. Of course, we can't conceive of how it can happen. How could it possibly happen when I'm totally preoccupied with inquiry that nevertheless problems could be solved? But it can be, again, because we know from these flow experiences, we know from various other experiences, it is possible.
Yes.
But it's very hard for the mind to conceive it because it's like, I'm the doer. How can it be done without me? I'll give you another quick example. These are just, these are all anecdotal. But, there was supposedly some, Zen monk or something like that who, there was like a really difficult set of puzzles, basically, that researchers were giving different people, okay? And, maybe 25 such questions, like brain teasers that required really kind of creative thinking. And, maybe most people get 3 or 4, and people who are really good at it get maybe 7 or 8, the maximum score was like 10. So they gave it to the Zen monk. They went through all the questions. They couldn't get a single one. 25 questions went by. They didn't get even one. Then, there was a pause. And then suddenly, these answers started appearing to this person. And then he may have gotten 18 or something like that at the end.
The Zen monk.
The Zen monk, far above everybody else, right? So he was in some state of mind where, it wasn't immediate, but things were processing at some level, and it opened up this intuitive channel where, he got this flood
Innovation
of answers.
happens.
Flood of answers. So that can happen too, keep in mind.
So pragmatically, for us, let's say I keep a puzzle in front of Geeta or myself, where I can have to solve that puzzle. And hey, you guys have to solve this puzzle in the next half hour. And it's a complex puzzle where I need to concentrate and engage my mind traditionally very deeply and think through various steps and all that. How would I do it would I be able to do it without saying, okay, I can't finish it within this time limit of half an hour?
No, well,
and then how do you train yourself to?
Well, no.
Or do I train myself to do that by
No.
putting a puzzle in front of me and then?
No. You can't insist on anything. So with inquiry, you're
Okay.
again, right? You're challenging the notion that you're in control at all. So
So who intends to solve the?
who intends to solve the puzzle? Exactly. Who thinks that they're going to solve the puzzle in half an hour? It feels as if I can control the systematic movement of my attention. I can engage in this series of cognitive processes to go through and solve the puzzle. It feels like that. Inquiry says, but is that really true?
But how to balance that time constraints with whatever our inquiry process? Because he has to complete in 30.
Who worries about the time constraint?
Actually, if you're very, very calm, a lot of innovation happens, and also you take very less time. The time to just the master is only.
No. What I'm suggesting is, sorry, can I bother you? You have a tissue or something like that?
Yeah.
Please. Sorry to bother you.
Because you're hoping the problem will get solved.
No, it's
because
not a
of something
problem.
else.
Your mind, it is beyond time, right?
I know, that's conceptually all true. I'm just trying to.
No, see, when I said I have a goal, I have to solve this in 30 minutes.
Correct.
Okay? This goal is a thought that occurs to you,
Sure.
right? Why are you concerned about this goal? Because it's my goal. Why else? It's not somebody else's goal. I'm supposed to have this work problem. Thank you so much. I'm supposed to have this work problem where I have to solve this in 30 minutes. That's just a thought. Do you have a work problem? Are you the person who's subject to all these work problems? I mean, it's very radical, right? But
No,
look, this is just a narrative thought. I'm this person. I work a job. The boss tells me I have to do X. I have to do X. I have to do it within Y time. Blah, blah, blah. All these are just thoughts occurring. To whom are they occurring? Me. Who am I? I don't know. but I assume I'm this person. That assumption is being challenged directly. So there's unfortunately no balancing of the two. If you're doing inquiry, you're challenging it. Now, I'll tell you, right? We talk about how, the truth is what needs to be done will get done. And we see here one of the pathways in which that happens, which is, if what needs to get done through interruption of inquiry, then your inquiry will be interrupted because you will not be able to do the inquiry, and suddenly this thought will seize you, and your fear will seize you, and it will make you do it in some conventional way.
That's another trick of the mind.
Like the fear is gone when then you can do the test without any problem.
Practically, Geeta, can you and I do it today is the question.
Yeah.
Suppose both of us go off now and I give you a problem, that problem that I'm talking about. And let's say we both go into inquiry. Can we guarantee?
Yeah, because
I
your
don't
mind.
have to give up the surrender, but can we practically do it in half an hour, today, morning? Or even solve it all this morning without engaging, if we completely dedicated to. And if it could, that would be such a wonderful validation. I mean, I know the flow validation comes to all of us.
Because
the flows are almost a semi-automatic. I know whom to call. I mean,
Right.
something does all that. But
Right.
here, I'm kind of engaging my mind in a series of very logical steps, and that's where the difficulty comes. And if this happens once or twice, I would say, "Wow, aha moment," but it hasn't happened to me yet in the context of this
And-
micro steps.
Yeah, right. And it won't until it's one of these things where it won't happen except at those points where you have sufficient faith that you no longer
Okay.
expect it to happen.
Got it.
You know? Because you have to completely it's like the visitation of a
Right.
god or something where you can't look.
Yeah.
If you're looking and be like, yeah, but I want it to happen this way. Can this happen this way effortlessly? Like
Correct.
as you peak, the god disappears. So it's like, the one who will so you have to let go and say, if it happens, it happens. It doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. It happens the way I want
Yeah.
it, great. It doesn't happen that way, great. I mean,
Yeah.
however it
So-
is, because who is it that's concerned?
Right. I think, like you said before, the surrender has to be so complete that I can be fired from my job, I can be done, I can be
Yes.
penniless, I can be this, that, but I don't
Yes.
go off inquiry.
Yes, because
So my path may not be to solve the problem at all.
That's correct.
But to get.
That's
away.
exactly right.
Okay, got it.
You may not be to solve the problem.
Yeah.
That's right.
I have a question.
Uh-huh.
This is not related to my practice of this
Mhm.
technique. Actually, in general, we are exposed to different types of meditation before coming into this journey of self-inquiry or surrender.
Yeah.
We've been practicing, and whatever the other methods of meditation, the thoughts we try to slowly, our mind is getting silenced and we get a sense of peace by practicing any other technique. So in the light of this self-inquiry and surrenderness, how to continue this journey of meditation of other techniques? Shall we take it as again observe who is getting that
Yeah.
peace and how to, because we get that satisfaction of now I'm feeling
Yes.
peaceful and blissful,
Yes.
and I'm content with whatever the state I'm in
Yeah.
right now, and I'm really lazy to practice this further, like
Of course.
so how to move out of this and continue my journey?
Well, I mean, again, there's multiple ways of looking at it, right? You can deliberately keep practicing these other meditation techniques, and the point where your mind gets peaceful, then you can bring up inquiry and surrender. But better than that would be to just do inquiry and surrender, and if, just like everything else, if you happen to do those other meditation techniques during it, then that happens, and if not, not. But are you asking, the main question are you asking is how to motivate yourself to
How to motivate beyond this? Because right now I'm happy with whatever
well,
sense of peace I'm getting it.
Well, the main
by
motivation is
practicing
this, right? So, I mean, if that's the case, the main motivation is, right now, you're achieving those states of peace through a degree of effort,
Yes.
right? Versus the end result of this path will be effortless.
Ah.
The end result. It will require effort for a while. Who knows how long. But the end result will be recognition of your nature as effortless, continuous peace.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Every meditation technique will be requiring you to
That's
run
the
on this
goal,
treadmill.
and that's the end goal we have to keep.
That's the end goal to keep in
And
mind.
The practice doesn't matter which one you picked up to
Correct,
reach.
correct. And also, I don't know about which meditation techniques you're using, but I don't know if there are meditation techniques that can be used in every situation without question, you know? Surrender and inquiry can be used anytime, anywhere, any situation.
Yeah.
Surrender is
Yes, that is.
So think about that too.
Yeah.
So what did you say? Anywhere, anytime. Before that, what was it?
Or any situation. I mean, basically, many meditation techniques, you know, they're expecting you to sit on the
down
floor and
and
close your eyes and all that, right? Surrender and inquiry don't require any such things, right? You can be anywhere, any circumstance, and
mental
you know,
level, yeah.
that's the beauty of it. The beauty is, it's applicable, continuously applicable, all the time, all the time. You know, so yeah, the promise of permanent, eternal, continuous, effortless, perfect bliss and peace at the end, and also right now, something which can be done at all times and moments.
Yes.
Got it.
So, when we think about meditation as a way to connect with the bliss experience inside, I think there's also another side of the coin, namely, one of the fringe benefits of meditation is that it allows us to harness the full potential of whatever is inside of us. Like we use a tiny fraction of our potential that the mind has. So in order to tap into, say, intuition, creativity, like what Raj was saying, to solve anything that is put in front of us in a creative way.
Sure.
So I'm wondering, because it's not just bliss. Okay, many people find bliss by, say, intoxication
Sure.
or some other
Sure.
methods.
Sure.
But one of the things my yoga teacher used to say is, make sure that your practice not only gives you bliss, but also empowers you. So in other words, we harness the full potential of the mind. And I'm wondering, what would you say about the self-inquiry process? I mean, I know that we start by saying, who is it that wants to
Yeah.
unleash the full potential of the mind? But in a practical way, like how can we empower ourselves?
Well, inquiry doesn't think like in a practical way like that. You see, practical is not practical at all, actually, right? Practical is associating you with the body again. You know, like what is practical? Who cares about practical? The real practical is that I don't have to do anything. So in these other meditation techniques, you know, which may empower you in various ways, nothing wrong with them. It's like any other field into which you put your karma, so to say, right? You want to become good at violin playing, you want to become good at being a leader or anything, you put concentration into that path and it will open up certain empowerments. You know, you want to have a good body, or you want to have a good memory, or whatever it is. Those are all meditations of a sort.
In other words, empowerment is just karma, not
Correct.
your meditation.
Correct. Empowerment is just karma. So this practice, inquiry and surrender, are not really for other purposes. Their purpose is liberation, you know, which is the supreme purpose. All other purposes are shadow purposes, is the truth, right? Technically speaking, again, inquiry and surrender are not in conflict with any other skill acquisition, you know? You can do self-inquiry and surrender, and if it's your karma, you will also gain other empowerments, if that's your karma. It may not be, but we can't insist on it, but it may happen that way, you know? That because there's nothing contradictory about doing self-inquiry and then doing these other things simultaneously, if that's what happens to happen.
Yeah, I think the main difference in this path, in the traditional path, more to what Sriram said, is that the intellect usually weighs in and directs the mind towards higher thoughts, towards problem solving, into, you know, so the intellect weighs in a lot. And here we are even saying, throw away the intellect, right? I mean, even the intellect doesn't figure in this, other than to just say, do the inquiry.
Yes, correct.
The intellect has no role in this path.
Well, I mean, it depends what we mean by intellect. The truth is, right, in surrender and inquiry, these are meditation methods that are not static, as you know. They're discerning methods, discerning, right? So even in surrender, you don't think of it as looking for a question, but the answer. But the truth is, you are continuously noticing that this experience is an experience. When you notice this experience is an experience, what you are experiencing becomes subtler and subtler. When I say subtler and subtler, I mean more and more peaceful, and also more and more difficult to notice as an experience. Just like the silence, the nothingness, and all that. Which are difficult to notice as experiences. So you are this moment of seeing, of distinguishing, oh yes, this too is an experience. This too is an experience. I didn't think this was an experience. Previously, I thought this was just me. Now I see this is actually not me. It's part of the experience, right? This is actually a movement of the intellect. So it's the intellectual movement there. So it is relevant. It's just relevant in a very specific way. Yeah.
I think the main thing in this path is the total acceptance that my outer life can happen in any way.
Well, right.
Well, and it's
Yes.
not up to my mind ego to have any expectations on
That's correct. That's
what
correct.
is going to happen in my outer life.
That's exactly right. And
Anything
we
can
build,
happen.
that's anything can happen. And we
That's-
build that. We build that.
You build that,
You know, it's nice to, you can try to jump to it, but we build that through the repeated application
Okay.
of practice.
Okay.
Because
So it's another way
Yeah.
of like building a muscle.
it's like building muscle. That trust is built. You build it because, you dip your toe in and also, right, again, inquiry is very powerful for that because again, all our fears come up about how things are not going to go well and, our duties will be neglected and we'll end up homeless and on the street and blah, blah, blah,
Yes.
right?
This could happen. This could happen.
Which, I mean, absolutely, of course it could happen. It could happen even without inquiry.
Ready for that.
It can happen without
Go
inquiry,
down the
though.
ladder.
You should realize that.
Okay.
It can happen without inquiry.
I see.
We're all subject to it, right? So it's, even doing your normal stuff without inquiry or surrender, any disaster could afflict you.
Yes.
That's the thing you have to realize. You could fall and hit your head and lose all your cognitive skills tomorrow
Yeah.
and end up on the street.
Yeah.
So, let's not pretend that,
True.
it could happen. So, and it has happened. So.
It is still very hard to digest for ourselves, but again, we have kids who are not still settled at, again, like I have 2 sons. So in that light, it is very hard to move away from that responsibility and just to see, it is really scary.
Well, you have to, I understand it is scary. And again, right? And again, right? It's so scary because there is the assumption that all of these things are mine, that these are my kids, this is my responsibility, and that I'm in control. These are all assumptions, right? With inquiry, we truly don't know, right? If we can allow this to penetrate this truth, I truly do not know who I am. There's I, but right, if you can get to the point where that mystery really hits you, right? Like even way before recognizing who you are, just recognizing I don't know who I am. It's a huge thing because that's the thing on which all this rests. We assume, of course, it's my kids. I'm worried about them, and I have to provide for them, and I have to do X, Y, and Z. But truly, if you say, well, what exactly do I mean by I in this sentence? You'll notice eventually that there's just a series of assumptions about what you are. But actually the I, meaning, I shouldn't even say the I, it's a problematic statement. The I, right? Like, where is that? What is that? It's actually a mystery. What happens is the mind says, okay, yeah, it's a mystery, but let's go back to my assumptions,
Yeah.
Let me just go back to my assumptions. That's what it says, right? So it's like opening a door and seeing something extremely strange that you can't deal with,
Yeah.
and then you just close it again. Let me just pretend I didn't see that and go back to normal life. But you just keep the door open and stare at it, basically. Stare at it and absorb the shock of not knowing who you are, because that's what all these worries rest upon, is, oh yes, I'm this, of course I'm this, of course I'm this, of course I'm this. You can tell me I'm not this, but I'm going to keep believing it, basically, right? That's the problem. So it's a direct challenge. I mean, I know it's scary, but again, the fear is the same thing. The fear, it's affecting me. I'm afraid. Who am I? Who am I who's experiencing this fear, supposedly?
I love the analogy you gave. We are opening the door,
Ah.
seeing that, again scared, again we
Yes,
are coming
yes.
back to our assumptions and
Exactly.
continuing this.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That's what it is.
probably-
Yeah,
Yes.
that's what it is. That's exactly how.
There are some questions.
Oh yes, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah, so back to this question about, meditation practices, versus self-inquiry.
Uh-huh.
So, just wanted to, share some reflections on that. I mean, so I've only been exposed to the self-inquiry over the last 1 year, where I've been kind of, looking at it seriously and all those things. And previously, practicing yoga, meditation, all those things. So now my and I'm finding the self-inquiry and all, it is fearful, it is challenging, everything, but very powerful.
Yeah.
And my reflection is that all these other practices are something you're doing, whereas this, and then it kind of suppresses, right? I mean, so because you're doing and you attain the sense of, the mind settles down and you feel a sense of peace, you don't face, things that keep coming up afterwards, right? And that, you're kind of just letting it settle, letting the dust settle, and then not cleaning it. Whereas this process of, self-inquiry and, it's, very recent, but I'm finding it that, that, okay, I have to face things, because throughout the day when something surfaces, I can't go, find a cool, calm place and just sit. I mean, even I've tried little, mudras and that and this to settle the mind, right? Because the focus was to settle the mind, to calm the mind, slow down the thoughts. But this, process of inquiry and everything makes you face, okay, what exactly is happening, is my, the short-term practice and, takeaways so far.
Yeah, no, I think you're right, exactly. It does. Inquiry forces you to face various things in your mind. Surrender, both, exactly. Because they're not about just isolating yourself from the situation and entering the space of quiet for a moment, but trying to see the quiet in the difficult situation as you're passing through it in that moment. So you're exactly right, 100%. It forces up all these fears. That's the burning of the attachments, right? These fears are these are the attachments as they arise in the moment, and you face them and you burn them in the light of inquiry. It's exactly what happens. And they re-arise, and they re-arise, and they re-arise, but every time it's like you're burning a bit more of them, basically. Because, you will do it, and you'll see, right, over time how you will gain power in this as you do it. You will gain the ability to surmount first the more superficial attachments, and the deeper attachments will arise, and the deeper still, and all that. It'll go like that, because the most rooted ones are the hardest, obviously, to challenge directly. Yes? Huh?
So sometimes in meditation, traditional meditation also, when we completely absorb, all the senses also shut down. And sometimes if someone's speaking to you, you may not hear.
Sure.
Right? And of course the eyes are closed.
Yes.
Usually, but even ears sometimes shut down.
Yeah.
All senses. Now in self-inquiry, that's the case, right? If it may still happen that the senses shut down.
Sure.
So if I'm in a meeting doing self-inquiry, it's very possible that I may not hear what someone's saying to me because I'm deeply absorbed in it. Would it still be processed by my so again, this is the fear part coming in, right?
Yes,
so
the fear
body,
part
mind,
coming in.
ego still will have access to that sense organ and be able to listen to what somebody is saying and act on it.
See, it can.
I just want a theoretical concept.
Well, of course.
I know what you mean practically speaking.
See,
how to practice the technique, but I'm saying.
See, in theory, anything is possible, right? I think there's a lot of fearful hypotheticals that are being brought up. Like, I'm going to fall into nirvikalpa samadhi during my meeting. It could happen, but why don't you try it first and see if it does? Because most likely, your karma, your tendencies will probably not make that happen, most likely. Not that I'm giving you a guarantee. It could be different. But again, right, these questions are like, again and again, right? You're sitting in the theater of a movie. And I'm trying to say, remind yourself, essentially, that you're not in the movie, right? This is part of, the characters in the movie, you're sitting in the theater. The characters in the movie, right? And then you say, well, if I remind myself that I'm sitting in the theater, will the character in the movie fall asleep during his meeting? Like, what if that happens? Well, I mean, you're sitting here in the theater has no bearing on whether the character does or does not fall asleep. He may or may not.
Still,
Huh?
I missed this part. Can you explain?
Yeah, sure. So again, right, there's the misconception. I mean, I'm giving a metaphor. A metaphor is not perfect. But essentially, right, there is a confusion of identity going on.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So in your case, right, Sri Devi is actually a character on a movie screen that you are watching from a seat in a theater. The audience in the theater has no control over the character in the movie. Right? What happens is when you say, for example, I have my kids, what if I need to work to support them? They're not settled yet, right? There's a fear. Inquiry is basically trying to essentially refocus you on the fact that you're sitting in the theater and that you're not in the screen, right? And the fear is, if I do that, you say, how will the woman in the screen take care of her kids? You see how there's a confusion going on?
Yeah.
Right? The woman in the theater sitting in the chair has no control over what's on the movie screen. That's all scripted.
Yes.
Totally different.
Yeah.
No control.
Yes.
There never was any control. Currently, there's no control.
We have to bring this back in.
Yeah, exactly. Because because this is the nature of the illusion. It feels like we're the character on the screen. Because of the subtlety of the mind, the way the mind works, this is part of this is Maya. That's why it's illusion. It's so compelling. It's very, 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 very subtle. And so it's very hard to see. It's so obvious that I'm this character. What else could I be? Huh?
I want to understand what you said a little bit more.
Sure.
Because there is a resistance thought that came up.
Tell me.
So in the yoga texts, they talk about the power of the seer and the power of the scenery.
Uh-huh.
So scenery is like force, like karma and things we do with effort or struggle.
Yeah.
Whereas the power of the seer is the power of presence
Sure.
that makes things happen. And the analogy they give is the presence of the sun spurs activity on this planet.
Sure.
And the presence of the life in the body spurs the physiology in
Okay.
the body.
Mhm.
The moment the life steps away from the body at the moment of death, then the physiological processes come to a grinding halt.
Sure.
So, in light of this analogy, the seer who's looking at the movie, the presence of the seer is what is making the movie in the first place.
Sure,
If there
you
is
could
no
say
seer,
so.
then according to this wisdom, there are things in the prakriti, that is the scenery, there's no sun that's going to spur activity on this planet. So I'm just thinking how we can resolve, in my mind I want to resolve, because from what I understood, you said, the seer does not have any role to play in how the movie is unfolding.
Correct. I mean, well, you can say, right, just like there are limits to every metaphor, is the truth, right? But we could say, for example, right, if you are highly focused, let's say internally, sitting at the movie, theater, if you are focused internally, you might not notice what is going on in the movie. And if you're fully focused internally the entire movie, you may not notice the movie at all. Now, under those circumstances, does the movie happen or does it not happen? This is like a Zen koan.
It's like a forest.
Yes, exactly, precisely.
But movie will continue on its
Well,
own.
this is a good question. This is a philosophical question. Does it continue? Does it not continue? We don't know. I mean, we have no way of answering that question, actually, because it's kind of like outside the sphere of, like it's like asking, okay, well, the character, after, at the end of the book, the novel, well, does the character go on to go to college or not? We don't know. I mean, there's no answer to the question, actually.
Yes.
It's like that. So with that, let's get into the actual meditation now. Let's do 10 minutes together of you pick either surrender or self-inquiry, whatever you prefer. Let's do it for 10 minutes together.
Okay, I'm trying to say, I will follow through the self-inquiry, and I'm also felt like, how do I feel that I am very silent and I'm happy, like that, and then peaceful, and what is the like what makes me feel that way? That means then like this kind of thing comes only with peace and happiness and absorbing, complete absorb, There, so I'm trying to see how I get that feeling, from where I get the feeling of all these things.
And so when you say from where you get that feeling?
In a sense, like which element in me is making me feel that I'm completely peaceful.
Well, it's interesting, right? So, I mean, it's an interesting way you put it. Is that the same for you as Who's observing it?
Yeah,
Who's observing it?
the element which is there, which is
watching.
which is watching
Which is
the
watching it.
feeling.
Yes.
And so
We want to be careful about this language, the idea that it's causing it. You see, causation is an idea.
not causing. I think
What is
it's
you?
mixed with me, mixed with
Yeah, yeah, with mixed with it,
it's
yes.
mixed with that
do
mixing
that.
is I'm trying to separate. I'm
Yes.
focusing on the mix.
Yeah, the I. So there's the peace and the happiness, right? And then you are there
Yeah.
watching it.
Yeah.
So that watcher,
Yeah.
where is the watcher? Where is the watcher? Does it make sense?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's exactly.
Yeah,
what
where's
the-
the watching only, the
The
watching, like, in other words, the feeler of the feel.
Yes.
Feeling. That's
yeah.
a kind of
the
a
feeler of the feeling.
feeling.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
yes,
what I am.
Yes. Yes.
I am trying to hunt and everything
Yes.
else shuts.
yes. Good.
and-
Good. Exactly. Because remember, you're aware
Yeah,
of the feeler.
yeah,
You're aware of the feeling.
yeah, that,
Otherwise, you wouldn't be aware of the feeling.
yeah,
So
yeah, I'm
Is
trying
that-
to nail it when all I feel that way. The feeler of the feeling.
well, so when you say
Aware
When-
of the,
when you feel that way, what do you mean when you feel that way?
reach that stage and then I want more to the, like my aim right now is the horizon.
Yeah. Okay.
And I want to do more feeler of the feeling and then
Yes.
observer of the feeling.
Yes. Yes.
And
Yes.
so
yes.
and continuously observe, like keep going that cycle.
Because you're just noticing, right? Essentially, right? You are looking
Yeah.
at this feeling.
Mm.
You
Yes.
are looking. So the you who's looking, you're looking for that you. The you who is looking at the feeling.
Yes.
Does that make sense? That's what you're looking for. Just keep that in mind. That's
Yeah.
good. Sounds good, actually. But just keep
And
that in mind.
also, and also I want that to keep going, not breaking.
Yeah, the tension,
Like
continuous
more,
attention.
more things come up and about the observer of the feeling, and I want to get more pop up of the observer.
Yeah, exactly. So the observer is always there. You're just looking for. You're just noticing, trying to find the observer.
I find the observer.
Yes.
I want to get the kind of investigation of that observer.
Yes. Yes.
So I want some clue for the investigation.
Yes. Yeah. No, that makes sense. Great. Okay. Perfect. Keep going on that path.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, one thing I wanted to ask you about, so I heard the conversation about someone saying, trying to solve a computer programming problem while doing self-inquiry, whereas right now, I'm just sitting here not really trying to do anything other than self-inquiry. One thing I noticed, I don't know if there are levels, but the instant I start to do self-inquiry, even though I might theoretically have trouble doing a complicated math problem while doing it, one thing is I instantly notice how much extraneous thinking is happening that is just completely unnecessary. I'm thinking about, after this meeting, I need to go clean up this room because we had some water damage come in, and I'm literally running the movie in my head of what I'm going to do, and it's crazy. So without any, this is what I wanted to ask, because you said yesterday that you said, the I thought is not the capital S self, but it's connected to it.
Correct.
But it also seems to be the source of all suffering.
Yeah.
It's happening to me. and so just starting the practice of self-inquiry, just the first 30 seconds, instantly a whole bunch of crap just goes away.
Yeah.
Without any level of any deep realization. And maybe when I do computer programming, I can't do self-inquiry at the same time, but wow.
Yeah, many other extraneous thoughts can go away. That's absolutely true. It doesn't always happen that way, but it can very much so. And the first thing is you will notice all the stuff, all the clutter that is happening, for sure. Yeah.
And it may be that people are different in their level of it. I may be someone whose mind is more prone to that because it becomes so obvious, what's, next Tuesday is as real in my mind as right now. in some weird way.
Yeah.
But not when I go, who's noticing that?
Yeah.
And as soon as I go, who's noticing that, then next Tuesday is just nothing.
Yeah.
It's a non-thing.
Exactly. Past and future are recognized to be just thoughts. Precisely.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, exactly.
So as a follow-up question, so is this whole self-inquiry trajectory, right? I mean, hunting.
Yes.
So one is, based on what we just heard, it helps us put perspective on our day-to-day, right? So that is a side benefit of this.
Yeah.
But eventually, is there a goal, or you just go through life hunting?
No. Well, the goal is, like I said earlier, liberation, moksha, which means there's an illusion at work. There's an illusion at work. And that illusion is sustained by the movement of mind along the attachment patterns. When that movement is sufficiently quieted, the illusion breaks. And there is a seeing of some kind which cannot be articulated in words. And that seeing then frees somebody or something from the illusion that they were ever chained up. That's the goal.
So it is sequential. It is kind of
Yeah,
sequential.
sure, yes, it is. Because the inquiry moves you through a process of slowly weakening attachments and discerning further and further what you are and what you are not. And finally, it'll come to the root of the illusion, basically. I mean, you might get glimpses, various kinds before that. Yeah. And then, but eventually the illusion itself will be uprooted. We should note, by the way, on this point, right? Technically speaking, it's actually not I, even the I thought, technically, is not itself the problem. I thought is just another thought, actually. It's just an instrument. It's identification with the I, that's the problem. And, well, who has that is the question. That's the question. So, yeah. Anybody else want to share their experience? What happened? No? Go ahead.
We started with combining the inquiry and surrender. Who is surrendering? Right?
Great. Yes.
And also with all these intellectuals around you, all the questions, get more scared. What's going on here? What is required to do the surrender? I'm capable of surrendering. Then I said, you see, you don't need to have anything. What you need is only the trust, and then you can surrender, right?
Yes.
Maybe I'm not surrendering. I'm just passive idiot sitting there. Could be also possible, right? So we don't know. So when the true test comes only when something goes wrong,
True.
whether you have surrendered it or not, then only you know really whether you have surrendered or you're just sitting there, right? So I then finally say, be quiet. That going through this thought process, going back and forth between, am I surrendering? Who is surrendering? Finally, say, keep quiet, chumma iru. That gave me the back to the peace.
No, that's great. That's great. I mean, you're absolutely right. The test, the proof, proofs in the pudding. Ultimately, right? When things arise, that's the only time you really can figure out whether you have been surrendering or not. True, absolutely. And you're right. Eventually, in a way, it's funny, right? Yeah, I mean, eventually you practice and you practice and you practice and you practice and you practice, and then maybe eventually you give up in a sense. Well, you're forced to giving up, right? In that moment, actually, there's a moment of transcendence potentially. But first, all that effort.
Yeah.
So
you don't know whether you are surrendering or inquiry and surrender. It goes hand in hand,
yes,
as you said.
Yes.
But it's sometimes it's scary that what you are doing is right or wrong. So for that, the trust is required.
Yeah.
Once you trust that things, whatever it is, it's fine.
That's right.
And then you have to. Ultimately, what you need is a trust.
Yeah,
That's
true. 100% agree. Because ultimately these instructions can only be explained at a certain level, and then you will have doubts about, am I doing it right or wrong?
Yeah.
And you have to trust that there is an inner guru that is guiding you. You have to assume that. That's right. 100% agree. Yeah, exactly.
So my experience was also, as he has just said, the tussle, surrender, giving it up. I can very prominently see the imposition of the mind on the observe what we hear in our regular Vedanta class. The rope is covered by the snake.
Uh-huh,
That's
uh-huh.
exactly what I could see. The fear has been covered over, saying if I let go, then it cannot be done.
Yes, you're seeing more clearly the fears. What
The
you're
fear,
seeing.
the fear which started is now I'm trying to analyze that fear. Where is it coming?
Great, exactly. Yeah, analyze the fear precisely, absolutely. Listen to it and see and subject it to analysis. Absolutely, yeah. Great. Okay, let's. Go ahead. Sorry.
One last.
Sure.
So, what it's making me wonder is, one does need the transactional world, right? So one does need a lot of activity on that screen. So, it can challenge you and then you can keep working, is that the right, assumption that the more exposure, the more you're kind of, the more activity there is and you have to keep withdrawing and, working around it, that strengthens you, or is that an illusion?
It's not that you need it. It's that what it is that there's a bunch of attachments. So what happens is as you do this process of inquiry or surrender, it naturally is the case that as you move alongside it, you'll try to do it more continuously. And as it challenges your identity more deeply, whatever is already there that you care about will automatically arise and will pose a challenge to the inquiry or the surrender. Because inquiry or surrender is saying, you're not these things. These things are not you. And you have nothing to do with them, right? So from the perspective of, I'm the person and I have these commitments, obligations, and I care about my family or whatever it is, right? Surrender and inquiry are saying, no, that's all fictional. So, that when you do the inquiry or the surrender, these attachments will inevitably arise in the world, in real world situations, where you then are going to be challenged to continue the practice in the face of their feeling threatened. So it's not like you are trying to provoke stuff in the transactional world so that you can become stronger at the practice. No, it's that the practice will automatically bring up the stuff that's already there. And there may be people who have less stuff there than others, or different stuff there than others. So no need to go seeking agitation. It will automatically arise.
I feel that do everything but think what's happening is an illusion, and go focus on the illusion route and think of everything as an illusion and don't get a strong impression of things happening.
Oh yes, all you have to do is, this idea of, even thinking of things as an illusion, it is a useful...
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah, it's a helpful belief, but ultimately the focus is not on a belief but on a practice, which is a little bit different.
Only.
Right?
I strongly believe...
You strongly believe it's an illusion, therefore I focus...
It's not affecting me, I am also doing it, and that also is not affecting me. Do the needful, but do not...
Well, do the needful is unnecessary. No, you do the needful is the practice.
Yeah. Yes, correct.
Yeah. So, the fear is, if I don't do it. So, doing the needful is karma yoga. That's a karma yoga stance. It's not wrong, it's just preparatory. In these practices, we are challenging the idea of doing the needful. The needful is the practice.
Yes.
Because the practice is saying, you're not the doer. Mm-hmm. So you think you can do the needful. You cannot. You are never in charge of whether whatever higher force is controlling the doings of the needful.
Okay.
Because we want to be free. We want to be free from the burden of doing. We're trying to free ourselves from this.
Yeah.
That's what it is. From all doing. I know it's hard. I know.
It's scary. Actually,
doing the needful thought coming from Vedanta, that karma yoga.
Yes, exactly.
That is the big challenge.
Yes, of course. That's the preparatory step. Which again, if you feel in a particular situation you cannot do inquiry or surrender, it's too scary, then absolutely drop down. Drop down. It sounds terrible, but karma yoga is fantastic. It's just not as good as surrender or inquiry. So do karma yoga. Do it. Do the needful then in that situation if you must. Because it's best to maintain some continuity of some spiritual practice, but recognize, right, the more exciting, the bigger thing is to get rid of this idea of doing. Like, you want to be free from doing. You want to be the pure spectator and effortlessly be and let things happen around you. Like you said, Purusha, pure witness. That's what you are, in fact. So, you want to get rid of all this extraneous stuff. That's just unnecessary.
But
okay.
that stuff is in also your subconscious mind and comes back.
Of course,
again.
yes, of course, and it's challenged. And that's the challenge. The challenge is burn it up through the practice.
Then move on.
And yeah, as it comes up, it'll come up as pressures on you to do. Right? Like, I want this. I'm going to therefore do action to do it, right? In that moment, if you can recognize this thought is just a thought, ignore it, surrender. Or, to whom does this thought occur? Me. Where am I, right? In that moment, then your mind will touch peace for a second, right? And then you're like, oh, okay, I like that, it'll happen again. Or there might be further challenge, and then you have to keep on, fighting with it via, keep on subjecting the further chain of thoughts to the practice again and again and again. But eventually, you will hit peace through that. Through that process, trust is built. Okay, I survived that. I thought I wouldn't survive it, but I didn't survive it actually. And I didn't die, I'm still here, right? And it was actually a good experience, and the mind gets a little bit more trust next time. And repeat.
And then I am here, that is the I or that my body then.
Well, I mean, in some sense, it's, whatever it is, whatever, it's some kind of identification of the mind. It's true, it's a subtle identification with the mind, right? The mind is the seeker, basically. The mind of the seeker. Because, we are identifying with the seeker to some extent, whatever the seeker is. The seeker is like a kind of placeholder identity, which itself gets stripped of its content over time. And finally it dissolves. Because we are assuming when you do the practice. I say you're not the doer, but I say do the practice, right? So there's a contradiction. That's okay, because the practice is not really a practice in the end, right? The practice will reveal itself in the end not to have ever been a practice, right? The end result, the end realization is there was no seeking, there was no practice, there was no effort, there was no obstacle, and there was no finding. All of those things are fictional from start to end, but we cannot jump to that. Mm-hmm. We have to go through the sequence, and then it will be realized at the end. Yeah, because people say, oh, why has God made it this way? Why do we have to jump through all these hoops? What's the point, But the truth is, the final realization will be, there were no hoops. There were no obstacles. We were never chained up. Never. Currently, we're not chained up. So, which is hard for the mind to understand. It doesn't make sense, because it's like, oh, it feels like we're chained up. It's not true. But you have to go through you have to jump through the hoops, and then you'll find out you didn't jump through any hoops. Because there's a false identification with a character, a fictional character, who seemed to jump through hoops. But you're not that character, you never were that character. So, this is the end result. But in the meantime, you identify as a seeker at some level, and you do the practice, but nothing else. And with that, let's do 10 more minutes, and then we'll take more questions, yeah? So, just because we're short on time, so. Okay, 10 more minutes. Want to share their experience? Go ahead.
Yeah, I was more investigating the feeler of the feeling. And then the feeler is popping up with every single feeling. I was having a heavy breathing, then I feel that he's also coming up, and then the feeler. And I don't have any feeling also, it suppresses, it's along there,
Yes.
And when I then like deeply hearing that feeling is also its root, that keen observation, keen thinking, all like I feel that the feeling is kind of the feeler is the kind of the root. Yes. Of all the things that I experience, kind of it's not. I'm not saying that root. I feel that the root, it's coming up. Unless it's all with all the feelings, it cannot be knowing it, or it has to be the start of everything, kind of a feeling, thinking. And then when I went to the thinking also, I said the thinking is also that observer. That observer is along with my thinking.
It observes the thinking.
Yeah. Observe.
So no, this is good. So yeah, you're starting to feel like, oh, it's the root of things somehow.
Yeah, everything is finally, I say, it is there with everything, kind of observe. Like I am feel that I am there with everything. Like like I'm experiencing every single feeling,
Yes.
the root, and the root, like not in an innocent, it's popping up along with it, side by side it's there, or it knows that it's coming up, then that means it's coming from this one, just like a root kind of a feeling. That feeling is also, that feeling also I feel that it has to be the only one that.
So, this is exactly in the right direction. Very good. And now, what I want you to notice is, every one of those feelings, for example, the sense that it's at the root of things, right, is also a feeling.
Yeah, it's
That's
a
also a
feeling.
feeling.
Yeah.
That's also a feeling of which you're aware.
Yeah.
Right? So these are correct in the correct direction, but note, these two are feelings.
Yes,
the feeling that it's at the root.
Yeah.
So the one that's observing that feeling, you see that?
Yeah. And I decided, I didn't even, suddenly a moment, I didn't feel anything, and I felt that is also that root, because it goes along with my not feeling anything.
Yes, it is. So correct.
And that not feeling anything, that's also an observer.
Yes.
That
observed.
that is the observer, I feel.
Well, say it again.
I was feeling chest congestion, I was feeling deep emotion, and I was feeling breathlessness, and I was feeling too much intense, keen hearing, keen of that silence. Everything I no other thought, everything gone to stillness of my mind.
Yes.
And the stillness experience, I feel, what I am feeling, how I feel that I am feeling stillness.
Okay, right.
Okay. And with stillness, how, because what all tells me, only my keen ears, going beyond my ear, and my so much of emotion, all these things happens, right, with the keen observation, and keen hearing, keen thinking.
Yes.
So all are feeling, and I feel that, then I feel that, all I feel, and then that also, the observer also exists. I feel it because the observer makes me observe, kind of a.
Right, see, but where is that observer?
Yeah, the observer is popping up with everything.
To whom is it popping up?
To my, like for example, I feel the feel that the observer is with the feeling. This feeling, that feeling, that
Right.
yeah.
And I'm trying, but you're noticing the observer, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So the one who notices is the real observer.
Yes.
So where is that observer? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You see that? So what happens is there's a feeling like, oh, that's the observer. I see the observer.
Yes.
But the one who sees it, no, that's the observer.
Yeah.
You see that?
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
So what happens is we project the observer onto some sensation.
Yeah.
So that's it. And I've seen the observer feeling, but it's not the observer feeling. That's another feeling, which we've
Other
labeled the
feeling,
observer.
yeah. Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
So we immediately should recognize, that I who am noticing the observer feeling, whereas where am I, the noticer of the observer, so-called observer?
Yeah.
It's not the observer. That's something else.
Yeah.
So do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that you're always looking for me, the one who's noticing this whole situation.
Yes. And then I decided, not decided, because everything, then I didn't have any feeling, I didn't notice anything, and also I felt that is also me.
Right. So again, right? So that feeling, the feeling that is also me. It's another feeling.
That's another feeling.
It's another
Yes,
feeling.
I have to go from.
And again,
I
who's
have to
observing
take it
that
from
feeling?
there.
Who's observing? Yeah, take it from there. Precisely. No, it's good. This is the right direction, but just keep noticing, okay?
Yeah.
You have to think? Huh?
So for me, when I was doing the self-inquiry, last time you said go beyond the silence.
Yeah, correct.
So I tried to go beyond the silence, and I kind of felt like just some kind of a current.
Okay.
So like observe who is that current happening?
Precisely,
And went
yes.
through that, and then finally hit a dead end. It's like I don't know.
That's okay. That's okay. And then at that dead end, who's experiencing the dead end?
Yeah.
Who feels I don't know?
Yeah, so
No matter what it is, there's always something, right? Even if it's the feeling I cannot move, I can't find out any further, I'm at an impasse, I'm at a dead end, I don't know what to do. These are all thoughts.
Right, yeah.
So again and again and again and
I
again.
couldn't go beyond that.
That's okay. That's okay. It doesn't matter. You don't have to.
Beyond that, I don't
You don't have to. You know, it's like there's like some Bob Dylan song. I mean, I'm not a huge Bob Dylan fan, but whatever. It says, you know, knock, knock, knocking on heaven's door. So this practice, even when you come to an end, you know, you keep knocking, 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 and eventually the door will open. So it doesn't matter if you don't feel like you can't go beyond. Your effort into the practice is sufficient wherever you are. You just keep putting effort in. Keep on putting effort. And the continuity, the attempt, even the attempt at continuity, right? At all times. Because the main barrier, why are you not seeing? Why are you unable to go beyond? Because there's attachments that don't want you to go beyond because they feel threatened by that. So those attachments have to come into the light bit by bit by bit, manifest, and then they have to be destroyed by the light. And then again and again and again and again until they become weak enough that you are willing to allow yourself to see the obvious. Until then, there will be a barrier. Or you may get occasional glimpses beyond it, you know. But basically, the reason we don't see is because part of us does not want to see. So, you know, but just keep on putting continuous practice as best we can, basically. You know, yeah, it's good, it's really good. Anybody else? Anyone on Zoom? Feel free to chime in if you'd like.
Yeah, I was going to ask a question earlier.
Sure.
Today I woke up with pain in the body. I've had chronic pain for over 10 years. And I know it's an object, but it seems more sticky, put it that way. Because I always have it. Sometimes it's more intense, sometimes it's kind of in the background. But it's unlike, you know, thoughts and emotions. You know, I do feel they come and go. But this chronic pain that has been in this body for over 10 years, it doesn't go. It feels like it doesn't go. It feels like it just gets louder or softer. You know, it just doesn't go away. And I realized that there's still a desire to be completely free from the chronic pain. And the first round I did more inquiry.
Okay.
The second round I did more surrender. It seemed like the mind and everything. It seemed like the surrender helped, but I know, you know, it's not about helping the symptoms, right?
That's right.
It's about.
It's about recognizing in some sense they're not yours. That's right.
Yeah. So I'm just wondering if you could give me a little, you know, like there is a realization that the pain, you know, it's karma, right? There's no doubt at this point that it's part of my karma. But there's still a desire, you know, to be free. It's just like almost like the pain, just at this point, you know, it's like unconsciously, it's always telling me, not safe, not safe, not safe. You know,
Yeah. No, there's nothing to be done for it except to continuously practice. That's the only solution from this perspective. You just keep subjecting it because who's having this pain? Who's having this pain? Who's having this pain? Or surrender. Either way, that's eventually going to hit the root illusion, which is that it's your pain. That's not going to get rid of the pain as pain, but it was going to get rid of the attachment to the identification as the person who's suffering it. So there's no other magic trick, I'm afraid.
I see.
Okay. And with that, unfortunately, I think we're pretty much way out of time, beyond time, so sorry for keeping you a little longer. Thank you all. And we have a session this evening at 7:30 Pacific, so we'll see you all then.
Yeah, tomorrow will be last day for meditation. I would like any donation or anything towards all these costs. So if you need the details for transferring with the donation.
Can you post that
Yeah, there's-
Yeah.
Zelle information in
Yeah.
the group?
Yeah, sure.
And also, maybe some people are not in our group, so
Yeah.
you get their ID through the.
There's also a donation link on my website if you want to
Yeah.
use that instead,
Oh,
so that's
we
also
can do
there.
it there, right?
Yeah.
You can go to my website or you can use Zelle.
Oh, yeah.
Zelle